You haven't lived until you've tasted death, spat it out, and said, "No, not for me, laddie," straight to the Grim Reaper's face. And when that day comes, you get to rest in Valhalla with all the brave warriors who perished in combat. Wigfrid is dead set on capturing that spirit in her role as a courageous Valkyrie. She is so dedicated that the method acting never stops. Wigfrid isn't even her real name, it's just a character she portrays in the opera. But underneath those pretentious umlauts, unicorn helmet, and a disdain for anything that doesn't have an animal in it, is the most powerful combat-centered character in the game. And I don't say that lightly. With 120 hunger, 120 sanity, and 200 health, she is the poster child for easy survivability, due mainly in part to her 25% damage resistance and multiplier, her magical voice, and finely crafted battle implements. My name is LimeLichen, and in this video, I'll take you on a voyage aboard the Langskip to explore just how it feels to play Wigfrid. Wigfrid, for the most part, plays like any other character in terms of the early game. No weird work efficiency here. She starts off with a free battle spear and helmet, so at least you won't be totally helpless in terms of self-defense, along with 4 pieces of meat. Hey, hold on there. I hope you don't intend on eating it all immediately, because you're gonna have to work for every single bite. Yeah, like I said earlier, Wigfrid can only eat meat and crockpot foods which contain meat. As you can guess, early on this was a bit of a drag to manage. While hunting isn't too difficult, as many of the monsters in this game drop some sort of sustenance when killed, my personality took a really dark turn. I felt like some sort of meat fiend running about, killing and immediately devouring my prey like a cougar, unsure of when the next meal would come. I hardly ever cooked my meat either, electing instead to raw dog any ham hock I happened to get my hands on. I began killing things just for the fun of it after a while. Birds? Dead. Frogs? Dead. Koalefants? Dead. Pigmen? Dead. This was the beginning of an awakening of the spirit of a Valkyrie and a primal animalistic urge for the thrill of combat. No foe was too large for me to vanquish. Tree guards and tall birds would feel my wrath. No fight too petty to pass up, as I exterminated catcoons and frogs all the same. Kind of psycho of me, I know. But I just couldn't resist.
All would taste the tip of my spear.
Oh, speaking of taste. If you're starving as Wigfrid, you must be doing something horribly wrong. Like not fighting enough. Her base hunger is fairly low, and she only has a taste for blood, so you can pretty much go indefinitely without cooking in a crock pot. Spiders are by far one of the best sources of meat, even if they negatively affect your health and sanity. Just a few swings of the spear and you'll be back to a relatively sane mind. If you want a less toxic food source, I recommend setting up a pig farm to harvest every full moon, as were pigs are guaranteed to drop at least 2 meat and 1 pig skin. Wigfrid's crippling protein addiction is a non-issue, as the best crockpot dishes in the game contain meat anyways, and thus can be shoved straight into her mouth. Now, that doesn't mean you should skip out on farming, as those dishes still require vegetables or other fillers. Maybe hire a wormwood if you wish to keep your hands a different kind of dirty. Or even take a trip to the desert to collect cacti, as they also count as vegetables, and in the summer, you even get a bonus. A lot of the time, because of the regeneration mechanic, I could sustain my body by bloodlust alone, and since I'm such a pro gamer, I usually leave fights with more health than I started. Pierogies are still king of the regen foods and were a staple of my diet. There were more than a few times I was a mosquito bite away from cardiac arrest, but that's what happens when you get too used to godlike power. You fly just a bit too close to the sun, which brings me to combat. Combat with Wigfrid makes every boat such a fota. Every foe is but a wee sapsy just waiting to be turned into me dinner. You really do feel invincible as Wigfrid, but that alone is the folly of her character. If you've watched any other DST YouTuber, they tell you that Wigfrid teaches some bad habits when it comes to combat. Because of her increased damage resistance and health, I would make some questionable tactical choices, like fighting a Deerclops with nary a single healing item in my inventory. I mean, what the fuck? was I thinking? Look at my poor little shriveled up jerky heart. My health never goes back up, by the way. I just keep bonking him. I mentioned in my West video that this gives players like me a false sense of security, and when we play a different character, we never switch off that keep swinging until it dies mentality. She's often pigeonholed as a noob character, and I now know why. I wouldn't count that against her though. There's nothing wrong with feeling powerful, just keep in mind that you have to be more careful when playing other characters. She's so powerful, in fact, that you really can't stay insane for long to farm nightmare fuel since sanity is so easy to gain. This sucks doubly so because Wigfrid can't just trip on shrooms. If you really want to harvest your greatest fears and forge them into a sword, I recommend going down into the ruins to the nightmare fissures and killing any shadows that spawn there. Just don't get overzealous.
Step off! Step out! Shit! They jumping me! They jumping me!
I'm not entirely sure if it's just because it was the first time I had fought them, or Wigfrid is some sort of unstoppable force, but the Ancient Guardian and Shadow Pieces were way easier than I thought they'd be. Just look at how she absolutely melts this Shadow Rook with that Dark Sword. Just ignore how much damage I took. Now, Wigfrid isn't just some barbarian. She's cultured and uses song to express herself and inspire her allies, and boy do those songs inspire. Wigfrid is an opera singer, and apparently writes her own material in her downtime, so she has a coterie of different songs, soliloquies, and serenades to assist her and her team in the heat of battle. There's the weaponized warble, which makes weapons break slower, heartrending ballad, which increases regen when fighting and allows everyone to heal like Wigfrid, clear-minded cadenza, which does the same thing as heartrending ballad but for sanity, bel canto of courage, which halves enemy sanity auras, keeping nightmares from interfering in boss fights, and fireproof falsetto, which makes you and everyone around you immune to fire damage. These are called battle songs, which last as long as you can keep Wigfrid's inspiration meter above the threshold of when you sang them. There's also battle stingers, which apply instant effects and using them drains inspiration outright, unless you obtain a skill that makes them run on a cooldown instead. You can draw the aggro of monsters away from your team with rude interlude, or cause panic within their ranks with startling soliloquy. She also has two planar songs, either a lunar or a shadow one, which grant damage against the opposing and resistance to the allied polarity. Finally, I've saved the best and arguably the most useful song for last, Warrior's Reprise, a song that, when performed, can instantly revive two teammates at a time. Not only is that amazingly effective, it's also entirely fucking ridiculous. I mean, imagine putting Beethoven on Aux and it hits so hard that the dead come rising to sing and dance along with you. Music is an awesome ability and possesses some great status effects, if I could remember to use them. Because they take up precious inventory slots, I just leave the papers behind in my chest and replace them with food or something else. The battle call canister doesn't help that much either because it's still a ostensibly wasted slot. Also, what is this crafting recipe? I mean, azure feathers? I hate when a crafting recipe calls for feathers because I can barely get them to drop. Look at how many innocent birds had to die for me to make my battle call canister. I'd probably use it more if you could at least craft the item once and then learn the song to sing it later. Because you're telling me that one of the most achieved opera singers of her time can't memorize a song and sing it by heart? You gotta be fucking shitting me, Clay. Arbitrary bullshit mechanics aside, I bet you still want to know about the intricacies of her battle gear. Wigfrid can arm herself and her allies with custom helmets and spears. These are not mere theatrical props, but respectable side grades to normal spears and football helmets respectively. The battle spear does 42.5 damage and about 50 when wielded by Wigfrid, and has double the uses of a tentacle spike. The battle helm has the same damage resistance as a football helmet, but almost double its durability. Instead of requiring rope or pigskin to craft, Wigfrid's armaments need gold and rocks to craft. This applies for every one of her recipes, by the way, so you will need a lot of gold. Let me put it to you this way. Meat and gold go hand in hand with a successful Wigfrid playthrough. To gain one, you must have the other. It mimics the cycle of life and death, feeding your porcine sugar daddy to craft spears and slaughter beasties, then feed them back to the king, and so on. Many I've spoken to say, or used to say things like, her gear's only good in the early game, but I guess they never really cared to take advantage of her higher level weaponry. Her Elding Spear does extra electric damage, and the Commander Helm is still about the same as a football helmet, but has even more durability and can be repaired by Wigfrid provided she's at full health when she fights with it equipped. Anyone can wear the battle gear, but only Wigfrid can take full advantage of their benefits, like the Elding Spear's thrust attack. Wigfrid also has a shield as an option for defense called a Battle Rund. Along with blocking 80% of damage when held, it also has an ult attack that lets you completely negate all damage dealt to you, turning Wigfrid into a discount Reinhardt. Personally, I would have liked to toss the thing around and catch it like Captain America. Kind of a missed opportunity, Clay. But anyways, where does Wigfrid fall within the cacophony of characters and skill sets when working with her fellow survivors? Why should you pick her over anyone else when cooperating with others? Wigfrid acts as a paladin in all the playthroughs she's present in, with status effects most useful for combat and her shareable gear. I want to highlight Heartrending Ballad and Weaponized Warble as especially useful in a group, as they can extend your team's life and save you materials for pierogies or expensive and fragile weapons like dark swords or glass cutters. She should also be the only one doing all the hunting for the team, as she is the most capable to deal with whatever creatures at the end of the print trail. Except for you, because you might need to ride a beefalo, as they won't try to stun you if you're mounted. Wigfrid is awesome, even though playing as her can fill you with a sort of hubris. She has extraordinarily powerful abilities and unique items, all powered by beef. If you've never played her, I implore you to try her out and find out how it really feels to play Wigfrid.